Welcome to the Unicorn Connector Show, where we talk about relationships, revenue, and referrals. We'll dig into opportunities for people to generate revenue by making referrals from the relationships they establish. We'll also cover tips to grow your network, leverage it, and get paid residual income for life. All right. Hello, everybody. I am so excited for today. We have the pleasure of having Tisha Marie Pelletier on the show, where she's going to be talking about connections, collaborations, and community, and how to build business together. So Tisha is one of my favorite people, who is a wonderful connector, author, speaker, and international mentor with features in articles, blogs, podcasts, media segments, and special events going back as far as 2009. Is that right?
2004.
2004. So I am incredibly honored to have you here. Tisha is exceptionally talented at connecting entrepreneurs, sharing resources, and leveling up their game as a mentor. And she has a Done With You personal brand toolkit and DIY courses. She is rightfully known as the authentic girl with a touch of badass and is incredibly accomplished, to say the least. So she fits perfectly under the unicorn DNA theme of this week, which is that unicorns are honest and ethical with genuinely good intentions. So I just had to have her on the show this week because of how incredibly intelligent she is and talented. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to Tisha Marie Pelletier. Tisha, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Daniel. You were right. That is a glowing testimonial.
You deserve it. You
did good. Like, you pulled it all together. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to have you here. And Tisha just had me on her show. So as I mentioned in the last show I did with Freeman, I think it's important to be reciprocal. So I had to have you on sooner rather than later. Yeah. Tisha, why don't you give us a little bit of an intro? Where are you from? What do you got?
Sure. Let's see. Where am I from? I'm pretty much an Arizona native, but looking to get out of Arizona in the next couple of years. We've talked about this, Daniel. I really want to move to Costa Rica. So that'll be like my fun next adventure. And I have been, I like to say, on the entrepreneurial roller coaster for a very long time. I've been a business owner since 2004 and have had different experiences in marketing, event management, and leading a mom entrepreneurs group before getting into personal brand building, professional speaking, live events. But I feel like everything I've done has all come together full circle. Like, everything I did before, Daniel, I still use to this day. There's the skill sets that I've learned, and it's definitely valuable for the clients that I'm working with. It's all been fun. Let's see. I've written a couple books, and I really dedicated those to my two kiddos. I have two kids, Caleb, who's 14, and Ellie, who's 11. And it was really, I don't know if I've shared, but I am such a big storyteller. I love storytelling. I feel like that's how people really relate to you. And it's why I love being on stages, because I speak a lot about the stories that I've been through and the experiences. And I wanted to share those stories with my kiddos. So I'm very big into creating rule of life lessons that I share with them, that hopefully they'll learn the lesson, probably in a different context, but it's the lesson nonetheless that they're going to learn. And it's more about leaving the legacy. And I feel like that's the way you do it. When you're a mom or a dad, you tell your stories.
Yeah, absolutely. I am only a dog parent as of now, but I can only imagine how challenging it must be. Actually, one of the articles that you were featured in, you talked about the hardest job in the world, or the hardest challenge, is being a mom-tripreneur. And push the words together, but yeah.
Mommypreneur. Yeah, the group that I had was called the Mom E Club. And I love that we're talking today about collaborations, community, and connections, because I feel like I've always been searching for that. And a lot of times, Daniel, I couldn't find it. I couldn't find exactly what I was seeking. So it caused me to put my entrepreneurial hat on and try it and do it and create it. And I think that's the thing with entrepreneurship, right? And you work with so many business owners that if they can't find what they're looking for, that's the next sign. Okay, then go create it. Other people probably want this just as much as you do. So you do it and you initiate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I think that's awesome. And really, when I was looking, there's a section on your website that I think it just says features or something. But anyway, I clicked on it and I'm like, oh, she's got a lot. You've been all over the place. Very impressive.
Yeah.
Like really. And I just thought that was awesome. So
Thank you. Yeah, I actually have to add some other podcasts that I've been on, but I mean, to me, I remember when COVID hit and I was on a blog, like I was featured on a blog out of Australia, and I thought that was just the coolest thing ever. I'm like, I'm on an international blog. And but yeah, if you look through that journey, like you said, you're scrolling, that's a lot of just hard work. That's a lot of things that got picked up and known for. A lot of the things, like I said, with being a mom entrepreneur, got a lot of press because I was taking the lead and trying to build community. So yeah, it's kind of one of those things, Daniel, where they say, if you're having a bad day, go look at what you've done or go look at the testimonials you've received, right? Because that will always lift you back up. It'll always remind you of why you're doing the things that you're doing so that you don't just throw in the towel, because there's valid points there of why you do the things that you do. And people admire that and respect it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Anytime somebody puts a comment on something of mine that's complimentary or giving some sort of praise, I like to screenshot it. And
me too.
I don't usually go back and look at them, but they're there. And every now and then I'll be looking through my screenshots and see something and I'll read it. I'm like, oh, that's so amazing. It's so awesome when people say that. So
it's the instant uplift. Yeah. I like to call it the instant uplift. So I love what you do too. I screenshot it and I just save it, especially if you have like Google Photos or Google Photo Drive, and just go back through and look through some of those things. And it just reminds you of why you do what you do. Powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Real quick, before we get into the topic of the day, I want to just give people an opportunity. If anybody is watching, go ahead and say hello, say where you're watching from. I'll put a unicorn in the chat. I always like to see those. Tisha is absolutely a unicorn through and through. So yeah, would love to see who is watching today. And if you have any questions as we go along, feel free to share. So yeah, one thing I saw as I was looking through, and you can see I'm just flipping through all the amazingness I found as I was looking into you. You have read on your website, you said, I love building meaningful relationships and learning how I can best support you. I thought that was awesome. And I totally can tell that's just who you are. You're always so supportive and genuine. And that's why I wanted to have you on today, because like I said, this week we are focused on unicorns being honest and ethical with genuinely good intentions. And one of the things that really stuck out to me is how you don't like having business cards at your networking events. And the reason for that is because you genuinely want to connect with people and not hand that ticket that says we might never talk again, a business card. So I just thought that was cool. And I know how just good of a person you are through and through. So I thought you were perfect for the show. We've got Adam from Mississippi. Hey, Adam. Thanks for joining.
Adam.
He also put a unicorn in the chat.
Yeah.
We got
a unicorn. He's a unicorn crown. That's what I'm going to find next.
Jolene has this unicorn. It's like a crown or like a tiara. I don't know what it's called.
Oh, nice.
It's a headband and it's got these little diamonds.
Oh, fun. That's really fun.
Cool. She's awesome. So yeah, without further ado, why don't we dig in a little bit? I really like I said, the way that you build connections and build a community and how you focus on collaboration. I'm curious, of all the things that we mentioned that we are talking about today, collaborations, connections, community, what would you say is like the core behind all of it? Like, where does it all start? It's a silly question, but
you know what? I think this is why goes in hand with what I do with personal branding, Daniel, because I do feel that the people that you connect with have a very similar set of values or principles that they abide by. And so for me, community is really important. Connections are really important. Integrity is really important to me. And I think when you start to build your community, you find those people that value those same things. I know you value those same things. That's why we get along very well. And so that's what I always lead with. I'm not going to be a fit for every person. I realize that. And we shouldn't be. There's 7 billion people on this planet. Like, you're not going to be a fit for everybody, but you can find the people that you can really connect with, which creates the collaboration, and then you get into community together. So I feel like they all work hand in hand together. But that's what I would say too, is there's a common denominator about the people that come to my events or the people that support me and I support them. I feel like we have a lot of things in common. So if we were to strip everything back and we were just to focus on what do you value and what's important to you or what are your interests, we would see that we have a lot of common thread, which is what helps with connections, right? It's about relationships. And you mentioned earlier about the no business card. The reason why I did that at my events is I like to be a little bit of a disruptor. And there's so many events here in Arizona. We have tons of networking events where I felt like every single event was the same old show. You walk in, 30-second commercial, pass your business cards, eat lunch, and it's done. Next week, same thing, same thing. And I just got so tired and burnt out that I'm like, gosh, there's got to be a better way. And so I started challenging people. I said, when you come to my events, I really want you to focus on making 1, 2, 3 connections at most, and really dive into a conversation with someone, not about work, but about you being human. What do you do when you get up in the morning? Do you have dogs? Like, what's your favorite thing to do? Like on the weekends? Start talking about things that really interest you, because the work conversation will start to happen a little later. Trust me, It always comes out. Yeah. Daniel, you and I talked about this. Even when you were on my show, you said there's a common thread between you and that person at the event. You're at the same place. Start there. What brought you to the event today? I know Tisha. Great. I know Tisha too. How do you know Tisha? I know Tisha this way. Okay. So there's conversations to be had, but it doesn't always have to revolve around what do you do for business? Here's how I can help you in business. Let's talk, let's do business. Like, it doesn't have to always be that way. You and I have a great common connection that I believe I introduced you, or vice versa, but Bob Burke with The Go-Giver, like, he talks about this so much. It's just about being authentic and being you, and it's reciprocal and it comes back anyway. There's no forced quota. There's no pitching. There's none of this. And if you can just, one of the best things he says when I'm in his Go-Giver community is to ask your clients or your prospects or people you meet at a networking event, so tell me, Daniel, how can I best serve you? How can I best serve you? At this time, is there a connection that you need to make? Or is there something that you need to be doing in your business that you need a little support with? Like, even today I was on a call and I asked the gentleman I was on this call with, Scott, I said, so tell me a little bit more about you. I'd love to learn more about you and where you've been and where you're going. And you know what he said to me? He's like, thank you so much. That's nice of you to ask me that.
Yeah.
Being a listener.
Right.
Interested listener.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And actively listening, being present, and actually paying attention to what the other person is saying versus just waiting to channel it to whatever you want to say.
Yeah. Waiting for you to just pounce. Okay.
How many networking events have you been to where it's you say something and you put all of your heart into it, and next thing you know, they're telling you all about what they do, and you're like, I didn't even ask you that. That's great, and I'm happy to learn about you, but I just gave you my heart and soul, right? I feel like it's a good chance to mention what Felix said.
Yeah, hey, Felix.
Felix is such a positive guy. If you haven't connected with Felix, you absolutely should. He said, what you tune into, you also turn into. Positive people create positive mindsets, values, etc. Which is why I put that you put the ticker down at the bottom that say you love building meaningful relationships and learning how you can best support people. I think that's so important. So I'm curious, you mentioned ways to connect with people and creating meaningful relationships. I'm curious if you have any tips on how to successfully connect, and not only connect with people, but stay connected with them as you meet them either online or in person.
Sure. I want to give a tip for just being online, because I know a lot of us here, I'm just looking even at the comments, are LinkedIn people. And I love LinkedIn. It's really the only platform that I spend majority of my time on. But let's say you post something, Daniel, and you get a lot of engagement on that. And there are a lot of people that aren't yet connected to you. You can see that because it says they're a second or third connection, but they took the time to comment. A lot of us would just like it. We'd comment back, hey, Tisha, thanks so much for the comment. You might write a little bit of a paragraph or your commentary back. But what you don't do, what I see a lot of people missing out is really then connecting with that person and sending them a DM, a further just, hey, you wrote the best comment. I really just wanted to say thank you again for taking the time to comment. That means so much to me. I love reading comments like yours. I would love it if you and I could connect. And you'd be amazed at how many people are just like blown away by that small gesture of, oh my gosh, you're reaching out to me?
Yeah.
Wow, you are reaching out to me. And I've had so many people write vulnerable comments because I do my lessons in my Lexus every Friday, Daniel, which is my Friday video of what I've learned. And a lot of times it's like something that I needed to hear. Like the other day, I'll just give an example. My friend Anthony was like, Tisha, you need to stop coping with compliments the way that you do. He was really in my face about it. And I was like, what do you mean? People don't come to support you just because they like you. They come to your events. They come to do the things with you because they respect you, they admire you, and you do a damn good job. He's like, you've got to get your head around that. He's like, because they come to support me because they love me. He's like, that's not right. He's like, it's not. So I needed that. So I turned it into my lesson. And, when people comment, especially people that I've never really connected with, that just means the world to me. I think that's why we're on a platform like that, so that we can engage and start the relationships and get into conversations. But I would say that it's not just about connecting with that person, but being reciprocal. Go to their page, give their page some love so that their posts start showing up on your feed. Mm-hmm. Check in with them often, tag them if you feel like it's something that's relevant to them, or something that, something that ties that to you or whatever. Like I had a good friend, Lee Toe. I don't know if you remember him or if Lee on LinkedIn, but I was making this mention that I was hosting this holiday appreciation party for my clients and my sponsors. And he's like, Tisha, you're such a good little elf. Like he just said something like that. And I was thinking about what's the holiday outfit I should wear to my event. And I was like, oh, Lee just gave me inspiration. I'm going to wear my elf sweater dress and some pants and some boots. And so when I wrote that post, in the post, I said, by the way, Lee Toe, thank you for the inspiration. Because of you, I wore my elf outfit today. And he was just like, oh my gosh. Like, he's like, keep shining bright, Tish, keep shining bright. He's like, you're doing amazing. You can see you from the light, from the mountains. It's such an incredible feeling to be able to connect with someone on such a deeper level and not be tied to, I got to get so many likes and I got to get so many comments. Like, to me, I would rather focus on the people versus the numbers. And I think a lot of us just get hung up on that. I'm like, there are people that have commented. So if you only got 5 comments, 10 comments, 20 likes, who cares? Those are still people that you can engage with that really show up for you. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael Gray is the one who brought this phrase into my life: people, not projects.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And Felix said, fellowship and friendship is built through connections, which would definitely lead to collaborations. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like stepping stones, right, Felix and Daniel? It's like you've got to start the conversation, which leads to this connection, which leads to this collaboration, or figuring out how we work together and how do we support each other. You're not just going to meet someone at an event and go, we should collaborate, without knowing that person. It's very much a relationship building exercise to see if you're a right fit for each other and how you can best support each other in a win-win situation.
Yeah, totally. And it's funny. I love that Felix is here in this part of the conversation right now so much, because so Felix and I went back and forth on, I don't know how many posts, so many times. And I felt like I had such a great relationship with him. And one day, I can't remember what it was specifically, but I went to send him a direct message, and I had never sent him a message before. And it just furthered our conversation and our connection even more. And I felt even closer to him. And like he said, a DM makes a difference. It makes it more personal and real and simple and honest.
Yeah. And I'll second that. So thanks, Felix, for writing that, because I agree. I think that once you get to the DM stage with that person, then you can take it offline. You start getting on a phone call, you exchange phone numbers, you text each other, and then you're traveling to Michigan to meet all your LinkedIn connections because you've taken it that far. And now you're like, I just want that epic conversation in real life. That's what happens. Daniel and I just met not too long ago in November, and we've already had a lot of conversations online but never met each other offline. And it was just such an amazing conversation. Like, you already know what's going to happen once you meet that person. So that's always been my strategy, Daniel. I am not a big social media lover. I really am like, I use it because it's necessary in business.
Yeah.
But I will say the biggest benefit is that, like Felix, take it offline, take it to the DMs, take it to the phone, take it to a virtual latte, then a real latte, then keep the connection going. And I would say that there are so many people that show up for me on LinkedIn and vice versa, because that's the relationship we already have.
Right.
Yeah. It's not absolutely. Surface. It's not surface level.
And so you said you met up with your LinkedIn connections in Michigan, right? Didn't you what did you call it? LinkedIn? What didn't you do?
No, I did. So I host Social Connect Phoenix out here in Arizona. And one of my ideas was just every time I travel to make the announcement that, hey, I'm going to be in this city, let's do happy hour, because I can't do coffee. I can't do 20 coffees. I can't even drink coffee, caffeinated coffee. So I like happy hour. I like happy hour because it's fun. It shortens your day up a little bit. It's networking. Yeah. And so what happened when I went to Michigan is I said, here's the place, meet up here. So we had about 10 or so people that came, but they never knew each other. Nobody knew each other in the group. So I was the common denominator between the 10 people that showed up. And the conversation was amazing. 2 of them are doing business together. Others are still talking. One just hired me back, and I'm bringing in one of the girls that was actually at the event. 2 of them live in the same neighborhood. Like, it is incredible when you put people in a room that don't know each other, but they're right in the same area, and you're the conduit that brings them all together to create the connection. Like, it is the most beautiful thing. I'm like, send me to more places. I'll do it all over the city. Every city, we'll just do another Social Connect pop-up tour.
That's so great. And how funny, like, you don't even live there, yet you're the one bringing these people together. It's crazy. Yeah. There are people I'm connected with from Utah in Salt Lake. I actually spoke on the phone today with somebody who lives in Draper. That's the city right next to me. And I haven't met very many of them in person for whatever reason or another. Like, I've met some people, but you would think that it'd be like, hey, you live 20 minutes from me. Let's go grab coffee. So you don't have to wait till there's some sort of event, which at that point, then you feel like you're selling something. Come to my event. It's right in your neighborhood. But if you're not selling anything and you're just getting people together, why not?
Yeah.
So I like to, if we're promoting an event locally or something like that, I'll try to tag the people that are nearby and see who's going to show up. But,
sure. Yeah. And it's like the little inside joke in Michigan was it took an Arizona girl to come to Michigan to get us all together. And I just had to give myself a pat on the back because I'm like, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I'm bringing you all together. Well, so the funny story is, and you met Bruce. I took him to the polo match.
Yep.
Bruce, the guy in the blue shirt. Big shout out to Bruce, who lives here in Arizona with me. And the first time, if you recall, I was supposed to go to Michigan in late July. And I got sick. I got sick with COVID. I had just come back from Costa Rica. I was going to Michigan the next week to do this happy hour. I had already set it up. Bruce already had his ticket. So he was also flying to Michigan. And he was like, I want to go to the happy hour. And I was like, Bruce, I can't even fly there right now. What am I supposed to do? There's all these people that are coming to this bar that I set up. And I'll be you. I'll be you. And he filled in as me, still hosted it, still brought people, FaceTimed me so I could call in from bed and see everybody. And then I went the next month and I met everybody. So it was like the coolest thing for your community, your connections to step up when you really need the support.
That's amazing. So I'm curious, you have built quite the community, both in person, physically in Arizona, right? And you have a whole community of people on LinkedIn. What would you say are some of the best ways that you do build a great community?
Well, I think that we've hit on some of those things too, of not being in it for yourself, right? Like, it's not a what's in it for me. What can I get out of Daniel? Like, how's he going to support me and work with me? But really listening, because there's probably an opportunity for me to connect you with more people in my community. And I think that your community really loves that when you're like, oh my gosh, Daniel, you should meet Felix. He's amazing. I just met him. He's awesome people. I'm going to connect you to, or like I mentioned to you, oh, I need to connect you with Todd Westra, who's in Utah, and he's doing big business. And I think you two should really connect. Like, I think that when you are a connector, like you are, and I am, and I think a lot of the people on your live stream are, I think that we look at that as, again, how do I best serve you? It's not for me. It's how do I help you in any way that I can, with a resource, with a tip, with a connection, with whatever that is, a collaboration, whatever those things are. And I think that's when your community really steps up to support you. And they really feel that, oh, Daniel's good people. I'm going to keep supporting Daniel because it feels good. We do things together. I think that for me is how you start to build community, because what's the other word? You're building trust with people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And for me, reliability and trust are two very important things that I need in a relationship. If I can't rely on you and I can't trust you, then we're probably not going to be friends for very long. Just saying.
Yeah, which perfect statement for the whole unicorn DNA focus of the week, right? Mm-hmm. Being honest and ethical with genuinely good intentions. And the reason why that's a part of the unicorn DNA is because so many times people make connections or introductions because of a monetary reason, right? Or whatever it might. Yeah. Or
forced. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I totally agree that trust is absolutely like the most important part. And if people trust you and they like you and they know that you're making connections with good intentions behind it, they're going to want to be connected to the people you connect them to.
So if we can talk about networking for a little bit too, Daniel, I've never been a big advocate for a BNI type group. And the reason is not that you can't build relationships there, but you're not, like I said earlier, you're not going to jive with every single person. And if you're in the room just because you paid the membership, that doesn't mean that I'm going to fully support that if you and I don't get along, or I really feel like there's no trust, or there's something holding me back, especially if I have connections that also do that type of work that you do. I think that to me has always been a big disconnect. I don't know if you've ever been a part of a group like that, but for me, I've never really been excited about joining a group like that because I don't want to get my hand slapped if I don't have a lead for someone. I don't ever want to come into a room and feel like I'm going to be punished because I don't have a lead or referral. And then you get into this area where people just are giving you cold, maybe lukewarm leads just so that they save face, or just so that they, that they have something. And I was like, is that really being genuine and honest if the person that you're giving to me is not really a person that wants to do business or doesn't even know that I'm going to be calling on them? Like, I just feel like there's such a big disconnect. So I've never really liked that scenario. So I've never put myself in a situation like that. I know people who rave about it. I know people who love it, but it's never been one that I really wanted to be involved with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting. I had two separate conversations about two different parts that you talked about right there. One being that other group, BNI, and the other being a different group where they would get reprimanded for not having referrals or a lead for somebody. And it's first, I don't want my name just being thrown out there unless somebody actually thinks it's a good connection, because time is a very important thing. We only have so much of it in our lives. And so you don't want to be wasting anybody's time. That's why being intentional and having a good intention behind the connections you make, I feel like is just so important. So I completely agree with you.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You just said, I don't want to be reprimanded if I go to a place and I don't have a lead. If I'm going to give a lead, I want to make sure that lead is solid, golden. It's like, this person really needs your service and vice versa. And I really feel like you could help them. I'm not just going to be like, I picked a name out of a hat, Daniel, and Jane is the girl, and she's the one I'm going to send you to because I have a quota.
Yeah.
That just feels very disingenuous to me. It's just not something that I can do, and more power to you if you can do that, but that's not my style.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you 100%. One of the main reasons we get along so well.
Yeah.
So what would you say makes a great connection? Either someone you have just met, a great connection for yourself, or a great connection when you're introducing two people?
I am always going to go with the two people. If I can introduce two people, I love being the person that just gets to sit back and watch the magic unfold. Like that to me is such a sweet spot of, hey, I introduced, let's just use you again, Daniel and Todd, and now they're off doing amazing things. And I see their name and I see them doing live streams together and I see them collaborating and building business together. I'm like super happy girl because I'm like, I got to make that happen. Yeah. I got to make that happen. And it's such an incredible feeling when you can be the person that builds that. It's just like Michigan. Like I sat there and I watched people connecting and they're still connecting months and months later. And some of them are doing business together. I'm just in awe of that because I'm like, gosh, it was so simple. You guys live in the same area. And I just happened to put two people that are really good people together. So this is it, the Unicorn Connector Show. I love being able to be the connector and just watching everything unfold and for the greater good. That's just gets me every time, like super happy.
100%. I agree with you. And I'll connect people just because I think they would be good friends. My favorite is when I'll be like, hey, you two should meet. And I recently had somebody say, why should we communicate in the conversation? He's like, what reasons do you think we can collaborate together? I'm like, oh, I just think you'd be great friends. This is a personal introduction, and I think you guys would really like each other. Maybe not, but just chat. Trust that I have the right intentions of connecting you with someone I think would be a great connection for you, one way or another. And it might not go that way, but it might. And it might change your life. I always like to say that a single connection could change your life. And I wanted to mention, so it was more of an indirect connection that you made for me. You mentioned this, and I'll confirm that you had Bob Berg on your show. This was a few months ago.
Yeah.
You were interviewing him about the Go-Giver, and I really liked the interview. I thought he seemed like a great person. I eventually reached out and connected with him, and he accepted. I'm like, oh, wow, he actually accepted my connection request. Had a couple conversations with him. Then somebody else had mentioned, I was posting this one day and somebody was like, Daniel, have you read The Go-Giver? And I'm like, no. And he said, well, it sounds like you have. You're talking like you've read that book before. I'm like, okay, I should check this out. And you recommended to me that I read the book. So I did. And that book and connecting with Bob literally changed my life. I dedicated a full week to the book. I expanded on each of the 5 laws that he mentioned and really drove it home each week. And it really has changed just my whole mindset. I had lived with these things before, but having that structure and just really taking it and running with it really changed things. And now I'm going to have him on the Unicorn Connector Show.
Yay!
The second week in January. So it comes full circle.
It really does. It really does. And so I'll make a comment about Bob too. So I've read The Go-Giver. I was actually given a copy at my church. A woman was like, I think you should read this book because it sounds just the authenticity part, the reciprocity part, all of it, because I was actually giving a grant to a startup that year. And she gave it to me and I literally sat on my sofa glued to this book because it's a very short read. Yeah. So I would say within a day or two, I was done and I gave it back to her the next week. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this book. And then I ended up buying the whole series because there's the Go-Giver Leader, the Go-Giver Money, the Go-Giver Sales. There's so many different series and they're all parables. So they're all very short reads with some amazing stories that drive home those principles. And I remember I was in a group and a woman was commenting on her post and she had tagged Bob Berg in it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was like starstruck. Right. And I was like, I love the Go-Giver. Like Bob Berg and John David Mann are amazing and all this. And Bob responded in the comments. And then he sent me a DM and you should see me. I almost passed out. I was like, you were kidding me. You were kidding me. And so I've also had the pleasure of having him on my show a couple of times, as well as John David Mann, the co-author. And he and his wife actually wrote The Go-Giver Marriage that just came out this past February and had them on. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, the fact that I love these books, I have them on my shelf, I talk about them nonstop with people, and I know the authors on a first name basis, and I have Bob's number in my phone. Are you kidding me? It's incredible. But again, had I just been like, don't comment, don't engage, don't any of that, I would have missed out, because I don't know that I would have ever seen that post or seen his name in a post again.
Right.
So it's like you seize the opportunity. If there's someone that you want to connect with, comment, engage, DM. And I like what Felix said, that things start with friendship. Like you even mentioned just now of, I connected 2 people because I thought they would be really awesome people to meet. If anything, they become good friends. That's a great intention, Daniel. I want to make good people good friends. And when you start with that, it's like sky's the limit of what happens next.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. In business, how many times, and maybe you've always been successful in business, it seems like you've done it.
No.
Entrepreneurs start businesses. They keep going and going, and sometimes you got to pivot. Sometimes you start a new business. Sometimes it's completely different than what you were doing before. And if you have people that you have real relationships with that you've had for years and years, and all of a sudden they become a great collaborator, you might just have a great business partner or a great referral partner or something like that. And so I feel like it's so important to be open with making new connections and not push any away because you feel like, oh, there isn't an opportunity to work together here.
Yeah. I think that's why the whole surface level thing it doesn't really fly, because you can't dive into a conversation with a person and really explore what could be, right? I'll give you a really great example of a couple years ago when I actually first launched Social Connect. I was looking for panelists, but when I was posting, a gentleman by the name of Mario Bain commented on one of my posts, and he was a second connection. So I did the same strategy. I commented, I thanked him, then I went in the DMs and I commented and sent him a connection request. He accepted, and we took it offline, and he became one of my panelists for Social Connect. But one thing was, he became my mentor. He became such a big part of my life in pushing me out of my shell and getting me to believe in myself. His whole words were, Tisha, you've got to bet on you every single time. And this is a big black guy who's just like pounding his fists at the Oregano's Italian restaurant. He's like, you've got to bet on you. And I'm like, okay, I hear you. But he changed my life in so many ways. And we're still connected to this very day and still great friends. Like, that never would have happened had I just dismissed it or just been like, I'm too busy to respond to that. I'll just give it and move it on.
Yeah.
So I really want to say to people who are watching, and Daniel, you do a great job of this, but if you are on LinkedIn just to get the masses and get the numbers up and all that, you're missing a big part of it. A big part of it is in the communication and the conversations that you have and that you start with people, because that does lead to something pretty dang amazing if you'll let it. Yeah. But if you're so fixated on, got to get this post out, got to look at who liked it, got to just check, next post, you're missing the point of this whole conversation and this connection. I have so many incredible people that I've met off LinkedIn, and no, I'm not like million followers and having to take people off my list. I'm doing it with intentionality. And I like that what you said, build it with intention.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in the numbers and caught up in the projects, right?
Projects, not people. Yeah.
No, people, not projects.
Oh, I know. I'm saying projects. People are getting caught up on projects, but not so much on the people.
What you said. So I'm curious, we've talked a lot about connecting with people and community. We've touched on collaboration a little bit. I'm curious, when you do meet with somebody new and you do feel like there are synergies there, what would you say does make for a good collaboration, good person to collaborate with?
I think that having the same goal in mind is helpful for sure. So when you start talking about ways you can collaborate, and I say let's collaborate on a project, right? We're not talking about come on in and be a business partner with me. I'm really talking about, hey, Thor. I'm really talking about how do we take this and do a project together? Because here's the thing, I've been burned. I'm sure a lot of people have been burned by collaborating with the wrong people and finding out too late and realizing, that wasn't really a good collaboration. And so I think that if you have this same goal or this vision in mind, and you've talked about responsibilities and roles and who's doing what, and that to me is what could make a really great collaboration go even further. But I will say that I've collaborated with people who have said and not done the things. And that is where we ruined the relationship. And now we're no longer connected. It's business. At the end of the day, it is business too. And really figuring out that collaboration it's really a test. I really love to say it's a test, because you're not going to know until you find out together if it was successful, or if you felt like you did everything for it, all the work, everything, and that person just was along for the ride. And I've been in situations like that where I literally had to say, I like you as a person, but we're not going to collaborate together again. It doesn't make sense, and I don't want to be the one to carry you.
And I think that's why having your values and your work ethic and working with people that align with those is such an important thing.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah, I agree.
It's so hard to go into business with somebody and have something not work out and keep that relationship, isn't it? I mean, I don't even know, like, I've done it, but you got to know when to end that working relationship and part ways amicably, right?
Yeah. So I don't know if I've shared this with you, Daniel. I used to run an event management company, and I partnered with a girl who was my ex-best friend's wife. And we actually knew each other. We got along really well. The two of them ended up getting divorced. And I like to say I got her in the divorce, because I'm no longer friends with her ex-husband, because he was a long story. But I could see as we were building this business together that we started to get burnt out from each other. And I started to lose passion in the business. And she had a whole mess of things that she had to deal with personally, with getting a divorce and financials and so forth. And we made the decision to disband. We sold the business. We went our separate ways. And I just remember telling her, I'm like, had we stayed in this business together, I would hate you by now. I really would, because we were starting to unravel. It's very hard to be business partners, especially with your really good friend or your husband or your wife or whatever, without really getting on the same page and figuring out how we make this work without tearing our hair out. And I'm happy to say that she and I are still best friends. We hang out all the time. We're going hikes every month, like all of this. But I'm so grateful that we both came to the realization that this was not worth it, this partnership, this business. And I remember her even saying this to me. She's like, I don't think that you really like partnerships. I really feel like you are great at solopreneurship. And I do. And I say, I really agree with that. I think that I can do well in a collaboration, but not in a partnership agreement like that, because it's very hard to partner with someone, especially if, like you said, your values aren't aligned, your vision, your mission. It's really hard to get into that when you realize, oh, we don't have the same ideas. We don't have the same vision. Oh, we don't want to do the same things,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
And so when can you tell that, like, when would you say is the first indicator that a collaboration is not working out?
Lack of communication, lack of follow through, and that person is just not pulling their weight. I would say that really the number one indicator is you've given roles and responsibilities, or you've split your roles and responsibilities, and that person is not doing what they should. Yeah. I would say that's the number one indicator where, for me, like, I just had a situation like this happen where I said, it's my reputation on the line. I'm going to go ahead and do it. And I'm going to show up to the best of my ability, with or without you. If I have to carry you, great, whatever. But at the end of this situation we had, I actually had mentioned to her that we wouldn't be doing this again. And I think that was good. I think it was good for me to be bold and to adhere to my boundaries and say, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to do this. Just because you're collaborating with someone, it doesn't mean that you are doing that for the rest of your life. I look at it as it's almost like a trial basis to see how you work together.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you end that, either partnership or be it a strategic partnership, a joint venture, referral partnership, how do you recommend severing that tie in the best way possible?
I think that, like I mentioned with this particular person, I just mentioned that I wasn't looking to do this particular event again. And that if she wanted to take it, I'd be happy to support her by giving her what she needed to get it going if she wanted to continue. But for me, I was just done with it. So I think that you can come to an amicable agreement with that person just by talking it over and seeing what's the best course of action in your joint venture, in your partnership. Is this something you want to do? For instance, like with my business partner, if she wanted to take on, I had actually given her that idea. I said, if you want to keep this event business going because I'm exiting, you can buy me out. We can sell the company. There's other solutions that you can come up with if it's not working for the two of you. But just to throw plates at each other and say, I hate you and walk away is not really going to solve anything.
No, that's not typically a great way to end.
No, I feel like it's, especially here in Arizona, it's like this, what do they call it? Like big city, small world. So everybody, your reputation precedes you. So you want to make sure that you're treading lightly, that you're not doing things to tarnish your brand or your reputation. So I really feel like it's good old fashioned communication. Get back to communication. How do we resolve this? What do we do? What's the next step? And you'll figure it out. You can figure it out. And if it means that was a one and done kind of deal, then that's it.
Right.
If it means that, hey, you know what? I don't really feel like I'm the best person to collaborate with you, but here's some other people that I think would like to continue this on, then you can connect to that person.
Right. Yeah. And I think that goes back to having good intentions, right?
Yeah.
Your intention was to support each other. It doesn't work out. So you want to continue supporting each other by ending that relationship, be it professional or personal.
Yeah.
Hopefully, if it was personal before, you can go back to that. But
I think so. I really do. I feel like that can always go back, especially if you end it on good terms. Like the people that I've collaborated with, if it hasn't worked out, it's not like we never see each other. We can't at least be in the same room. It's never been at that point where it's just super uncomfortable. Yeah. We still are on good terms. We can still have a conversation. We have just chosen not to collaborate.
Yeah, and that comes down to it can be a two-way street, but ultimately having the conversation in an appropriate way that isn't throwing plates at each other, right? Like, as long as you know.
Gosh, I hope people don't do that.
Yeah, I'm sure people do. I'm sure there have been some fiery blow-ups, but
I'm sure.
I feel like that's, very important for sure.
Yeah. Adults, people, act like adults.
Yeah, exactly. And you cared about each other. You supported each other at one point or another. You got to remember that you're still people. There's so much more to it. So
people, not projects.
Exactly. People,
yes,
not projects.
Exactly.
Cool. So I am curious. So we haven't talked much about, either your golden connection or dream that you have. Which would you like to talk about first, I guess? Because I want to touch on both of them.
Yeah.
I have on the bottom your golden connection, and this is a shortened version. So we'll put the full version. We're going golden connection, it looks like.
Okay.
So you said entrepreneurs who seek potential in themselves and know they need guidance and are willing to invest in their personal and professional growth in order to go further and achieve more.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I work with a lot of solopreneurs, and I love working with fellow business owners because I've been there. I've had multiple businesses. I'm typically steps ahead of them in the process. So that's why I love business mentorship. I do also the personal brand building because I feel that a lot of times, Daniel, a lot of people are really lacking in confidence and their messaging and the clarity. And so that's why I really like to help them. And for me, like having those things dialed in will help you achieve more growth, professional, like you'll have a lot of that personal and professional development once you invest in yourself and you start moving in that path, right? If you're trying to do everything all on your own, it's going to be a really tough hill to climb. So I like doing that, like I said, with solopreneurs. And then, as I mentioned, if we take it a step further, I got my real estate license in 2021. I'm currently building a team under my brokerage. And if we're talking about collaboration, I was mentioning this to you in the green room. I'm looking to build a team where we all have each other's backs, where we all can support each other. It's not Tisha's the leader, we do what she says. I don't want to be in that kind of a role. I want us to come together as, what do you do well? What do you do well? What do you do well? So that we can really build on each other's strengths and use each other as resources. And I never want to put someone in a position where they don't want to do that thing. It's like, let's figure out who likes doing what, and let's build this together, and let's build this really great culture in this environment. This is what I would have wanted had I been working in a corporate environment or in a team environment. And so now I get to build it. Like, I'm super excited to build it. And for me, all these things, helping entrepreneurs, guiding them, investing in their personal, professional growth, or achieving more, and we're doing it together, just seems like such a big winning combination to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I love that's who you said your golden connection is. And I can attest that you genuinely care about helping people be successful and doing it with the right intention. So I think that's amazing. And where would you suggest people go to connect with you for that kind of support?
Sure. I really feel like LinkedIn, if you're on LinkedIn, that's the best place. You can find me at just my name, Tisha Marie Pelletier, or you can hit me up on email at tishamariepelletier.com, or even on my website. There's actually a button below for booking a virtual latte with me so that we can have a fun Zoom call and grab our non-caffeinated. Yeah. And we can just chat more about where you want to go and what you want to do, who you want to connect with, because I feel like both of us have this Rolodex in our head of all of the people that would be like, we can just instantly, if you tell me something, I'm like, oh my gosh, I know all the people. Like, I'm making the introductions now because I want you to succeed. I'm here to help you succeed. I want to see you grow. And all you need to do is ask. All you need to do is get connected.
Yeah. And sometimes it's literally just asking, or even commenting on somebody else's post, right? Somebody that you are starstruck by.
Yes, that LinkedIn starstruck feeling.
I've been there. There have been a few people that's happened with. Bob was one of them. So
Bob is one. Great person.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, cool. Let's see. Before we wrap up, was there anything else you wanted to share related to the topic of today?
I think it was Felix that said this earlier in our conversation, and I'm going to piggyback off of Bob because I follow him on Facebook as well. And I don't know if he posts the same kinds of things on LinkedIn, but he had this really great post, Daniel, and you might have seen it. But he said, what if we didn't give this whole negative gossip any time at all? A lot of people, when we talk bad about somebody, it's gossip behind their back. What if we had positive gossip? Where I'm talking about Daniel to Michael Gray, and I'm like, Daniel's the most amazing person I know. He rocks out in his cool unicorn shirts. What if we did that? Like, how awesome that would be if we just gave positive gossip a try. And I was like, that is awesome. That's such a cool concept. Like, no more backstabbing, no more, oh, Daniel's this person, and none of that, but just actually positive vibes all around. Really loved that. And of course, it came from Bob. Of course.
That's awesome. And I'll give a shout out to Freeman Beals, who said something along those lines. But what if every day, every person just said one positive thing to another, just one compliment, right? Anything positive. But I just feel like that could have such an amazing ripple effect. Why don't we have a positivity holiday where it's no negativity allowed? Wouldn't that be cool?
I like it. I want to say this too. We're talking about intentionality today and communication, connections, and conversations. I've been in the most random places and people have just stopped to talk to me. The last was a woman. I was actually at a Goodwill buying something. And she just sat there and just chatted with me and talked to me about her kids and the relationship she has with her son, the non-existent relationship, how her husband passed away. And she wanted to see if the things she was buying were cute Christmas gifts and cute Christmas decorations. And I just took the time to listen to her. Nancy, that's her name. And it was just, I wasn't rushed. I was like, you know what, Nancy, I'm going to make time for you. Yeah. And we just sat there and chatted, and it was beautiful. Like, we don't need to be in such a rush all the time. We just need to stop, enjoy the moment, be present, and just focus on the conversation right in front of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. I love that. Yeah. I had to throw your banner in there. Awesome. That's a badass. That's Tisha.
That's me.
No, but it's so true. You really are. Like, I love it. And I love that you have that in your LinkedIn. I'm sure you get comments and things all the time about that.
I do. And if I can leave with one thing, you asked me about what's my big dream for next year. How do people help me with that? Yeah. Yeah. Before COVID, I was really working on my speaking career, and I had already hit it. I had already hit being a professional speaker. To me, the professional speaker is you get paid. You're no longer doing it pro bono. And I remember the first talk I gave, I think I took away like $175. And you remember Mario, I was telling you about my mentor. I was like, let's go to lunch. He didn't really make a lot. I'm like, I don't care. This is amazing. There's something to be said about remembering the first time that this happens to you. And the first speaking gig, which then led to speaking on more stages and more corporations and more things. And then of course, COVID shut it down, which forced me to pivot to more virtual stages. And last week, or a couple weeks ago, I had the opportunity to share my God story for C-Suite for Christ. And I just remember how much I love the feeling. And I was decked out, so authentic with a touch of badass, Daniel. I did not wear a dress and heels. I actually wore jeans, a t-shirt that said, pray, trust, wait. And I rocked out with some hot pink sequins Converse lookalikes from a dance store I bought. And and my pink blazer, like you, we talked about t-shirt blazer look. That's my style too. And I loved it. And I can't tell you how many people approached me after. A lot of people watched online and they were just so uplifted by this story and could relate. Like we even had Tisha tissues in the aisles because I broke down crying. Other people were breaking down crying. I got up and I sang on stage. I've never done that before, but I love it because I really feel like that's where I can be that authentic with a touch of badass. I can speak to you and speak into you and give you the tips and give you the strategy and just help you along the way just with a simple speech. And so that's my goal next year. And luckily it's already moving and I have got the speaker reel, the landing page, all the things. And I'm getting ready to speak in Atlanta at a Women of Video conference and have some other workshops that I'm being brought in for. And I'm just like, I want to make that more of my goal is to just get up and do more speaking and travel and impact more people that I don't know yet. Yes. But I'm about to know them.
Oh yeah. Through connection and speaking and good intentionality. I love it.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you. Thanks for letting me share that. My big dream of the year.
Absolutely. So if anybody has any speaking engagements, Tisha is well-versed and incredible and powerful and definitely somebody that you would want to reach out to have speak at your event. So make sure you reach out to her. And speaking of events, any events coming up or anything coming up that you wanted to mention before we wrap up?
I do. So my big connection community event that kicks off again is February 1st and Social Connect Phoenix. It happens at Courthouse in Chandler. And it's, of course, during my favorite time, happy hour, 4 to 6.
I thought you were going to say Groundhog's Day, but...
Yeah, happy hour. And it's just good people, good vibes. I feel like when people come, they feel immediately welcomed. Nobody's like running to the door to get out. Like people are just like, this is a cool, welcoming space. I feel very at home here. And it helps that the place I have it at, it's not pretentious. It's not a ballroom. It's not like a place with no windows. Like it's an outdoor courtyard with a bar area. And it's just so inviting that people, I would describe it, Daniel, like hanging out in your backyard with good friends. That's how I want the feeling with a craft beer in your hand if you drink. But that's the feeling. Like in October, we did a chili cook-off. Like we had 3 different chilies, just good food, good vibes, dessert, like all the fun things that I want to be around. And that's how I created it. And people really love that environment.
I love it. Yeah. Cool. So Social Connect in Phoenix.
Yep.
Courthouse, you said?
Yep, at Courthouse in downtown Chandler. And there's parking. There's a parking garage right across the street, which is so perfect. I couldn't have planned that better. I tried.
Awesome.
Parking's always the issue at events. And so February 1st, if people who are tuning in or watching the replay are interested and are in Phoenix, then reach out to me. We haven't yet posted the registration link, but that'll be going up in the next week or so. And all good. Really great to meet new people. And we get a lot of new faces.
Awesome. I love it. Leave your business cards at home, though.
Leave your business cards at home. We don't need them.
All right, Tisha, I am so grateful that you joined and shared your wisdom and your authenticity with a touch of badass. I love it. I love you so much. You are so awesome. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And that'll do it for today. Have an awesome rest of your day and week, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, Daniel.
If you're looking to generate revenue by being a connector or by getting referrals for your existing business, then check out how Unicorn Universe creates abundance through connections in our community by going to unicornconnector.com. That's unicornconnector.com. Stay tuned, follow us, and hit the subscribe button as we expand on ways to grow your network, generate income from opportunities we avail, interview our partners and connectors, and show you how to become the magical unicorn connector that you are.